All right, welcome to another episode of NFL Outdated Cover 2 series. And this episode, we are talking with former Iowa Hawkeye and Minnesota Vikings running back Albert Young. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Andy.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anytime we can talk football, it's a good day. Especially we can talk, Hawkeye football with one of the, you know, my favorite players, and I'm definitely excited to kind of hear about your time at Iowa. Obviously, your time with the Vikings. But first of all, I want to hear about some of the most impactful. Since you are a coach now, I want to hear about some of the most impactful coaches that you've had growing up, and that's kind of maybe shaped who you are as a coach now.
Oh man, I've had so many good ones ever since Pop Warner, Coach Russ Horton, who was my Pop Warner coach, and eventually ended up coaching me my senior year of high school again. He stands out. Coach Frank Paris, who's a legendary coach in New Jersey. Um, he took me under his wing at a young age. He's always been around, and then of course college, having guys like Coach Carl Jackson, Eric Bieniemy in the NFL. Those guys, I've been fortunate enough to be around a lot of great football minds and actual strength and conditioning. I had fantastic trainers growing up as well.
Yeah, so I guess I didn't realize Eric Bieniemy was one of your coaches. So what about him made him so impactful to you?
Um, but especially from the running back perspective,
Hmm.
you don't realize you actually don't realize there's so many intricacies to the position because a lot of people assume that's the position you let's face it, a lot of places will throw anyone there sometimes. So to have someone who played and understand the game from a complete offensive perspective where you fit, whether that's in pass protection, blitz pickup, that was something that was new to me. I actually grew a lot more once I got to the league, which you're always growing, but that you don't realize there's as much growth until you're around someone you respect enough and who's been there. I learned a lot from him.
Yeah, with that, and we can kind of get into that too. I'm sure as someone who's played the game and as a coach, you kind of look at things differently than some of us who haven't played even the position of running back. I saw your notes. I think you had tweeted something about elbows in, thumbs up, and talk about some of that, what that means, and then maybe what you're seeing, what you're reading in your reads as a running back.
Well, I put that one up mainly to show the younger backs that there's more to just running. Elbows in, thumbs up. That there's crossover throughout the entire football field when it comes to that. But just really just emphasizing the fundamentals of pass protection and the things when you don't have the football. That's really what that was for, and that was just me working on the one man sled. You know.
Yeah, and so right now you are, doing your running back academy and kind of doing some of that training.
hmm
I mean, uh, are those some of the kind of things that you are kind of sharing with them, and what are some other things that you're kind of sharing with someone who's just getting into playing the position?
Absolutely. There's different skill levels depending on the ages, but our sessions are more like a true football practice. The kids get homework. I grade it, whether that's on the fronts, reads, things of that nature. And one of our guys really took to it this past off season. I sat him down with one of my buddies that actually coach in the NFL, and we'll have film sessions with him. And so there's work done before we go to the field, which I know separates us. We're not just throwing a football in your hand and doing a bunch of agility drills. That's another package. So we're
Absolutely.
actually doing football work when we do our running back stuff.
Was that something kind of when you got to Iowa that you kind of learned, or is that something you've kind of always done? Just that film work and that study that you've always done as a player, kind of growing up.
A lot of the things I'm doing with my guys are carryover from my Iowa days, and from my past experiences in strength and conditioning, and all those teachings and learnings. My kids are getting that. That's the best part about it is especially when I'm training with my lacrosse player Tyler. He's going to Harvard, and his strength coach is James Frazier. who was at Iowa when I was there. So it's easy selling him on it because I'm like, this is what you're going to do at college anyway. So you have to, you better get used to liking
Yeah.
it. But it's
Yeah.
good to have that backing because the kids know what you're doing, and then when they go to see and visit their colleges, I want my guys to go in and be those freshmen that jump to the front of the line because they already done all this stuff already. So we're doing the same thing the college athletes are doing, just a little toned down for high school kids, and that's just part of the whole deal.
Yeah, and obviously, shout out to the Nebraska Hawkeyes, podcast that you were on, and I didn't realize that you had originally committed to Wisconsin.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I committed to Wisconsin going into my senior year, early senior year, and that was always a dream of mine, especially since they had Ron Dane and all the former New Jersey running backs. But Iowa came in late, and it was the best decision I made to date.
So, having had done that, was it a different experience than when you actually did play Wisconsin?
Oh yeah, I always loved playing Wisconsin. That was always a game I got up for, because just having that familiarity with them. So and for it to be a rivalry game for Iowa, it worked out fantastic.
Absolutely, and obviously your career definitely worked out. Third leading rusher in Iowa history, I believe, and so you're up there. What when you actually had your first official carry in a game, what was going through your head? I mean, were you just trying to kind of figure out your reads, or I mean, was there kind of more emotions in that as well?
Oh well, I mean, considering my first 2 years at Iowa, that it was cut short due to injury. So
Hmm.
when I got back in the mix, it was more of it's time to show everyone what I can do, and especially at that time being a younger back, the main thing is really slowing down. Actually, it's slowing the game down. So I was ready to go then. I already had 2 years on campus, and it was just more of a finally relief, and to get through the whole season. I'm sure the coaches felt the same way. Like finally, we got a whole year out of you. But yeah, those were good times.
Yeah, and so you were in the same backfield as Sean Green. I mean, did you guys kind of teach each other some things, and how did that go?
I think we all kind of, you know, take things from other guys' games. Sean being from South Jersey, we obviously knew each other. He was actually we actually lived together for a while. So just really on our approach, that I think that's where we all kind of took bits and pieces of everyone's game. Like Fred Russell, I
Mhm.
really looked at his alignment and saw where I can be on that. Fred was deeper than most, but that's also knowing your personnel and where you can be. Sean, I know our power and counter footwork, we all kind of mimic that. He kind of took that more from Fred, his action. So just little things like that people don't think about, especially from the running back position. You definitely grow from the guys in the room, and I would like to thank those guys. Um, Probably maybe took my tempo was really what separated me.
Yeah, and so did you then? Obviously, you play the 4 years. Did you take a redshirt year then? Were you in what does that redshirt year look like? I mean, I'm sure as a high level athlete, that's hard to just kind of sit back and watch. What was that redshirt year like?
Well, then redshirting was almost the norm anyway for most freshmen. My first year, I broke my fibula during a scrimmage. I got tackled, and coaches. I could have came back after a few games, but it just made more sense talking over with Coach Ferentz and everyone. It was just no point in missing 3-4 games. Just take the red shirt your freshman year, and that's what we did. Then the following year played and then tore my ACL. The second game, I probably could have got a 6 year actually if I applied or try to get it. But redshirt year, it worked out well. I thought it was good because I was able to go on the road with the team, which
Mhm.
is nice. Coach Ferentz and those guys said, even though you're redshirting, we want you to experience going on the road, being at the hotel, things of that nature.
And so, yeah, did you get a chance to play against Bob Sanders then in practice and everything?
Oh yeah, yeah. We practice against Bob all the time, and giving him a look. And with that, yeah. So I was still running with the ones and twos as a red shirt,
Oh wow. Okay.
which told me a lot as what the staff thought of me, because usually
Hmm.
you're going to put your freshmen with the show team, and they had me right up there. That was awesome. That was the best thing for me because I redshirted, but I was with the first and second team.
Yeah, and so obviously we talked about Bob Sanders, and on the Nebraska Iowa show you talked about some of your favorite teammates, Calvin Davis, Champ Davis. Um, do you have any kind of like inside kind of road stories, like maybe even during your red shirt year, those type of stories that that you can share maybe?
Oh, but those, man, there's so many. I mean, I think it's more of, there's so many guys. I don't want to go name it because I'm going to forget someone. But yeah, you
Yeah,
got Calvin and Champ up there. They're going to appreciate that. There were some of my guys, and I just think of more of the conditioning days, just the tough times out there on the field, and uh, you know, yeah, sometimes somebody would jump all sides just to give a little extra break. But that was funny. But everyone probably didn't like that. But just little things like that, just stories amongst training, and we all grinded it out together.
And you talked about Kirk, like, what was he like? I mean, did he like just have to give you a look, or did he say much in practice just to kind of get you going, or what was he like kind of in practice, and maybe other coaches as well?
I tell you, I think a lot of it goes. Iowa does a good job recruiting hardworking players with grit. Everybody remembers when Warren Holloway had that quote,
Hmm.
"Giving 100% doesn't make you special, just makes you part of the team." It's really true. A lot of Iowa players, there doesn't take much to get us going. We're all geared up, hard worker, grinders. We, you knew when Coach Ferentz will let you know when we aren't doing what we're supposed to be doing, but you really don't have to hear that much because they do such a good job. That's not an issue for our program. Everybody works hard, grind, and that's the least of our worries. From what I remember from my Iowa days, um, that wasn't a question.
And also, being teammates with Chad Greenway, you
Mm.
talked about like I believe he was kind of just that a grinder as well.
Oh yeah, Chad, hard working, freak athlete, and I was fortunate enough to see him at Iowa and the pro level. Chad's a friend of mine, and he always looked me out when I first came into Minnesota to make me comfortable coming in, and that was a big help.
And you talked about some of the other players you played with as well, but and maybe even the kind of the vision you need as running back. I mean, do you um, when you're running back, obviously, kind of you know who you can rely on, and what about kind of Marshall Yanda made him so good, and maybe some of the other linemen that you played with that they just kind of knew where to be and where they were gonna where they were gonna be as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. Across the board, our entire O line was a talented bunch. There wasn't particularly one side that that was always more dominant than the other, but when it's time to get a tough yard, you know where Yonder's at. You know where those guys are at. But just so many great players across the line. Uh, it's hard to really pinpoint one. Because I played with Robert Gallery also.
Right.
So I was able to see him my freshman year. So I was able to see all the greats, man.
So as a running back and kind of as a fan, it's hard to, kind of see this, but when you see running backs kind of, just, riding the offensive lineman kind of right behind, I mean, at what point are you kind of looking to just kind of, hit the hole as hard as possible? And at what point you just kind of need to just kind of wait the play out?
Well, you wanna ride the line. It's called pressing the line of scrimmage. You wanna press the heels of the line, and you wanna take that far as you can go. Actually, almost to the point close enough, borderline and tripping. So that's where the timing and tempo comes, and that flow makes it difficult for the D line and the linebackers to get a read. You know?
I was gonna say, like, as a young back, did you ever, just, hit a hole as hard as you could and maybe get blown up by a defensive player that you were just like, okay, maybe I need to just let this play out a little bit more.
Exactly. That's what it is for young running backs. It's actually slowing down, and that was the biggest thing for me coming into a zone scheme. It didn't take me a while to adjust, but at first, coming from most high schools are power schemes, and even my high school had some wing T principles. So everything was get the ball, see the hole, hit it 1,000 miles per hour. Where zone scheme is more of we have to be a little more patient, and our tempo and our demeanor is going to dictate a lot as everything is in relationship with the offensive line.
And you obviously played with some great tight ends as well. Reisner, Moyaki, Myers, obviously Chandler as well. What did you kind of maybe learn from them as far as their blocking and maybe even some of their pass catching? Because did you do a lot of kind of passing out of the backfield or catching out of the backfield as well?
Oh man, now that I think about it, I think maybe every single tight end I played with, maybe exception of one or two, every single one played in the NFL.
Yeah.
So that's whether, and I mean, like, eventually played in the NFL.
Yeah.
And so I've been to be able to have tight ends like that and that many that can block and catch. That's what gave teams problems with us because it was just how are you going to match it, and most of the times you have to go big, and when you go big, you can't cover our tight ends in the pass game. So that's an advantage that Iowa still, holds true to this day. And they always seem and they always will get the best tight ends.
In practice as well. I mean, did you have to do the jugs machine, all that stuff, and kind of work on your hands, or with that part and kind of maybe even working with the tight ends and the receivers on that as well, or how were the running backs, given that responsibility in practice?
Yeah, you would work the jugs, but there's always ball drills I did on my own. There's a ball drill I've been doing since fifth grade, and that I do to this day. And that's just as good as catching the ball and getting your hand strength up. So, you have to find ways to get that extra work in, but hands and catching wasn't really an issue for me.
So would you say that, you can't, as a running back, you definitely can't, just rely on practice. You have to do your own work on the side as well, just to kind of, get that, if you have talent, it's one thing, but also that repetition as well, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's so many dimensions to the running back position, which I know gets overlooked. It's the one position where you're involved. You're either getting hit or you're doing something every play. You're involved. So pass game, pass protection, running wise. So there's a lot of responsibilities you have to cover. So yeah, you can get away with just being a runner. They can find ways. They can sub you out. But if you want to be complete and if you want to play at the NFL level, especially now, you have to be able to do it all. So everybody can catch now. They should be able to. And it's just a matter of actually getting the guys the ball. A lot of guys can catch just whether the OCs or, to this day, quarterbacks don't like to check it down to the back.
Why is that?
When they do, that goes all the way up to the NFL level at times too. But you see the one guy who does do it, Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
How many Super Bowls he got?
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's just something. I guess that's never going to go away. They're looking to chuck it down the field.
Yeah, I get it. When you got Patrick Mahomes just kind of flicking it, that's everybody wants to see that. But when you have an efficient, offense, that wins games.
Oh yeah, definitely. Got to use all your weapons.
With the Nebraska, Iowa podcast, you talked about the Tate to Holloway moment, and I guess I was wondering, I didn't realize that you had remember that you had torn your ACL. Were you able to celebrate? That must have been hard to kind of be a part of that, but just not really have a chance to celebrate and talk about that moment for you.
Oh, the entire bowl experience was great. And I was on the sideline. I might have gave a little trot over there on the field, trying to get over there. Having to remember I'm still rehabbing my knee.
Yeah.
But that entire experience was fantastic, and it was a great time for Big E, Etor Ewing, and myself. We trained every day together, so we built up a bond through our rehab, and to this day I still talk to him, and it was an opportunity to build relationships with teammates as well. Even though you're hurt, but you're building relationships with teammates you might not be around as much because they play a different position. And I was there able to celebrate. Yeah.
Do you have kind of an issue now with some players kind of missing the bowl games? Obviously, it's a business decision, but do you think maybe some of your teammates and maybe you would have made a different decision to kind of be a part of a bowl game? If things were the way now that they are now.
Well, being in the NFL and being able to see the business side of it, I'm not going to get mad at someone who sets out.
Oh, absolutely not. Yep.
It's not your teammates understand, or they should. I'm not like I'm advocating for it, but I can understand why those guys do it, because if you see guys missing out on money from just one injury, and so, but I think that also but with college football, that's taking the meaning of the bowl games down.
Yeah.
So I want to hold it against a guy that sets out that game.
So this is kind of another aside. I do an NFC North podcast, and so we talk about obviously the Vikings and the Packers and everything, and it's interesting because I've had a number of Packer fans on Twitter, saying, "Oh yeah, Devontae's going to take a team friendly deal. Everyone's going to take a team friendly deal," and I don't see the player, Devontae doing that, or any player, doing that, because it is important, because you just never know as a football player, when your career is going to be over. I mean, you get the money for you and your family, and put yourself in the best situation. And it's a different perspective as a player that is from a fan, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. From a fan perspective, I can understand where they say that. From a former player perspective, you want players to get every dime they can.
Absolutely.
Because if they can play players that much, you know how much the owners are making. So on our end, there's you're never going to hear a former player say, "Oh, he got paid too much." It's like, we don't care. Get your money.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So he may, but I don't know enough of that situation to know what a hometown discount would be. I'm sure they're going to give him a nice offer.
It'll be interesting to see how that shakes out as well. But kind of back to the Iowa stuff and the bowl games. I did hear obviously as a player you had a chance to kind of pick some different like swag or some different things. What are some of your favorite kind of packages that you got for being in the bowl games as a player?
Man, one that comes to mind is a Sony Handycam, and I still have it. And
That's
there's
awesome.
exclusive tape on it, but I need to find something to actually play the tape. And once I get it, I'm gonna post it on social media, because it's behind the scenes Iowa stuff. Like
Love
us
it.
during the bowl trip, you'll see Big E in a different form. You'll see, yeah, it'll be awesome. There's Greenway, everybody's on it. Once I get that thing up and going, I remember the Sony Handycam. We got Discman back then, when those were hot. I believe we got headphones. Those were nice treats that we got. Yeah.
Yeah, and you said Big E was quiet then.
Yes, very, very.
So yeah, you were kind of surprised that I mean this kind of came out of him then.
Well, just didn't know about it, because everybody's got personalities, and it's awesome to be able to see him, doing what he's doing, and that goes for a bunch of guys. You learn more about your teammates. Actually, you see different sides of your teammates when they go to the NFL, because college is, ran different. So when guys go to the league, you'll see more of their personality come out.
Well, speaking of that, like your transition to the NFL. Now, I'm trying to remember. Were you drafted, or how did that work, or was it more a free agent deal, or?
I was an undrafted free agent. I ended up being undrafted, and then that's where We had a few calls during draft day, and ultimately decided on the Vikings.
Yeah, and what made you decide on the Vikings at that point?
The amount of backs they had at the time, the contracts expiring at the time, so those were all things that went into play. And just I knew I would have a good shot at making that club.
And when you got a chance, obviously, well, we talked about this offline. I was in Mankato for that training camp, and talk about your experience in training camp once you got to the Vikings, and maybe any stories of living in the dorms there in Mankato.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it took you back to college days, but you're so busy then, and you at that point, you can customize the room how you want to make it comfortable enough. But that wasn't any issue because you got one thing on mind: is to make the football team. They
Mhm.
fed us good. The room was clean. That's all that matters to us. Yeah,
What about I heard Jared Allen was a little crazy there.
Jared. uh, it was fun. It was
Is-
fun. I mean, I'm not gonna no locker room talk right now.
Oh yeah, I totally get it. Yeah. That was I I had a chance. I was living in Mankato, and I liked the setup as a fan. It was pretty accessible, and obviously things have changed with the Vikings now. And but it was just a nice chance to kind of be able to see players up close, and obviously it was a different. I believe it was a lottery to get AP's autograph. So
Oh, really?
yeah, it was a whole lottery, so no one got a chance, and it was yeah. I mean, as a fan, it was a great setup. I definitely enjoyed it, and looking then at your Vikings days, talk about kind of getting a chance to play with Brett Favre, and hearing from the other pod that I hear that he's a lotion stealer. So I'm like, what kind of lotion did he steal from you?
It was a vino. It was a
Okay.
vino. I don't know why he just had a habit of doing that once in a while, but Brett was awesome, man. To be able to play with him and someone you admire growing up, and then being able to, yeah, it's a little different when guys you look up to, and now you're eventually actually playing with these guys. Um, Adrian Hutchinson, Big Mac, Sidney Rice, Percy Harvin,
Mm.
Asante Shenko. I can go down a list. The Williams brothers, Sharper, Winfield. We had some nice players, and I was fortunate to just be a part of that and be around those guys because those guys, although I was primarily obviously a special teams player for 4 years, all those things are helping me with my coaching now because I learned little details from all of them, and I can incorporate that with the kids I coach and the kids I train.
And I have a picture. I can't see you, but it is a picture of you getting a handoff from Brett here. And um, as a running back, was there something different about his handoffs, or maybe even like his throws? Like if you caught anything out of the backfield, a little harder, a little. I mean, what was he like? To receive a handoff and maybe a pass from.
Well, everything with Brett was done with a purpose. There was no reps off. Pass game wise, he was really good at no look passing, and you could tell manipulating the defense with his eyes. He did that really well, especially if you're a back. Running say you're running into the flat and there's some type of slant behind you. Um, you would think the ball's coming to you. Next thing you know, it's zipping by your head. So being able to manipulate the defense with his eyes, Brett was really good with that.
In the NFL, then, what was your first NFL carry like? I mean, nervous, or what was that like?
First NFL carry. No, I wasn't nervous. Um, it was just no, it was awesome because everyone is good on your team, and you just have to do your job in the NFL. That was cool. Against Cleveland, my first game, I wasn't necessarily expecting to play, so I had no thigh pads or knee pads on.
Oh
Then
wow.
Adrian caught a cramp because I was just playing special teams, so I was like, okay, I don't need any pads in my pants today. And then coach is like, AP cramped up. You about to be up. So I go to the trainer. I was like, you got to run to the locker room real fast. Grab my pads. I'm about to go out there. So I remember that story from my first NFL game. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And so then, you got in there and do you have any kind of like, I mean, memories of just kind of, AP, obviously, the things that he, maybe taught you, things like that as well.
Him just have a relentless work ethic. That's what
Hmm.
it comes with him. Just bring it every day, no days off. He's a definition of that, and he's more something you just watch him work, and then you have to match that intensity. But that makes you such a better player because you know you got the best in front of you. So you have to do your part to even be in a room. And he set the tone.
And do you feel like kind of, you had the injuries at Iowa. I mean, did maybe that perseverance, help you in the NFL as well? Just to kind of be like, you kind of know how hard you have to work to kind of get back to a high level.
Yeah, definitely. I wasn't afraid of hard work or when there was a physical injury, I knew how to get back from it or what it took to get back to being healthy. So that all the Iowa experience helped me tremendously with the NFL because it prepped because in the state of Iowa, as you know, you are the pro player.
Hmm.
So actually when I went to the NFL, it probably actually toned down a little, believe it or not. So it
Wow.
was
Yeah.
actually like the experience was actually easier for me in the NFL because Iowa, there's more pressures going to class and
Hmm.
things like that after a loss. I ain't have to worry about that in the NFL as much because you're more in a bubble in the NFL. And shielded from everybody and even the media you're shielded from in the NFL. College at a big school like Iowa, nah,
Hmm.
you're in the mix, especially if you're playing. Yeah, which is
Absolutely.
good, which is I wouldn't want it any other way.
Well, you talk about, in a bubble. Do you remember that game after the dome popped, Favre's last game?
Yep, I was there. I
So,
was
so
there.
yeah, I mean, what was that? I actually ended up, I being at that game as well. I mean, it was, outdoors, crazy weather. I mean, what was that like?
Well, I remember when the thing fell down. It was more of like, thank God nobody got hurt, but it was time for that dome to go.
Absolutely, it was.
It was long overdue. That needed to go. But those games, I remember those games were freezing. I was actually on the IR when we had to play outdoors at the University of Minnesota. So I was actually fortunate enough not to be outside during those games. But that was Minnesota cold, man, and
Hmm.
that's a different type of cold.
Absolutely is. And, you talked about kind of your rehab. You had a chance to rehab with Big E. And what is that like? Uh, I had a chance in high school to kind of rehab, but it was nothing like, kind of in college and NFL. I mean, what is that kind of grind like just mentally, obviously physically, at some point you're going to get back to it. I mean, do you feel like kind of after injuries that you did get a chance to kind of get back to where you were before it?
Yeah, I think I got close enough, um, especially after my ACL. The fibula wasn't really too concerning. It was the ACL because you hear those three letters as an athlete, you think it's over. But the good thing is we had four other guys. Yeah, now you had 4 to 5 other guys going through the same thing with you. So we more pushed each other, but it's hard. It's more difficult because you got to get your rehab in before that 6 o'clock workout, or you want to find ways to get to over to the facility as much as possible, at least 2 to 3 times a day, on top of everything else. But it toughens you up, and you know you can come back from anything. I think I might have lost. I don't think I had the same long speed like after my freshman year. That guy, yeah. So I just more of changed my game, and that's where the zone scheme it worked out well because I was offense worked out well for me.
Is that what you kind of teach some of your athletes now as well? That obviously you have to adapt to, if you have an injury, that you have to kind of adapt to, what you can do and kind of learn as well.
Yeah, well, you kind of you always think you always know what you know you're capable of great things, but your body kind of you're like, damn, okay, I'm ripping off 20 yarders. I'm averaging 5 yards a carry, six. I'm like, okay, this might be who I am. I ain't break that 90 yarder like I used to.
Yeah.
So it's more the game is going to tell you where you at. You just have to adjust and still do what you need. Still two major injuries. And now I look back, I got 4 years out of it in the NFL. I'm like, if I ain't get hurt. So I'm happy with the way things turned out.
Yeah, and so you did get a chance. Did you kind of try out with the Jaguars, or how did that experience go?
They had some injuries, so they called me up for training camp late. No, I don't, it was more of a camp body situation, I think.
Mhm.
But there, I was able to, become friends and get to know Maurice Jones-Drew. So
Mhm.
it was just it was nice to be able to play with him because you play with Adrian now with Maurice and still
And he's killing it
communicating.
on.
He's doing his thing. He's
Yeah,
doing his
yeah,
thing on TV. I spoke with him the other day,
awesome.
and he looks like he's loving it, and he's that's fantastic for him.
Speaking of running backs, maybe that you looked up to as well. You obviously looked up to Marshall Faulk. Have you gotten a chance to meet him before?
Man, I met Marshall Faulk once because he's friends with EB. So when we were in Minnesota one day, we're in our running back meeting, and Marshall Faulk is sitting in the back, and you don't really get. I'm not going to really get started. There's only two people, three people I might have been starstruck by. Marshall Faulk was it for me because
Mhm.
I try to mimic everything he done, and EB even asked the question, do you guys know he asked like a trivia question, and I raised my hand like a little schoolgirl, like I know the answer. and
Absolutely.
that I he probably won't remember. He may or may not, but I remember he was in our running back position meeting room. We all got a chance to introduce ourselves. Yep.
Yeah, and so with the running backs now in the NFL, are there some running backs that you really kind of admire and just kind of see as obviously ones that are doing it the right way?
There's so many capable guys now. You don't see as many of the bell cows anymore.
Mhm.
That's because that's just the way the game is now in high school. Or you're not going to see the Adrian Petersons. You're not going to even the Marshall Faulks, the every down backs. It's just there's a lot of parity amongst the position, which makes it really competitive because there's so many talented guys and you go all over the league. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey when healthy. Zeke still has some sauce and Derrick Henry, but a lot of parity amongst the position.
Are there some running backs that kind of more were your style now?
Hmm. I can't really. I can't think. I'm not thinking about that one because I was more like a power, like quick twitch power guy with patience. You see a lot of more of a lot of guys now are more slashy,
Mm.
meaning they're not as thick in the legs anymore. Um, so it's just a different type of back now.
Maybe AJ Dillon.
I'm not. My legs weren't quite that
I
big.
I don't think my arms or my head's even that big.
Yeah. Well, Saquon, he
Oh
reminds you of
yeah,
the old school. Yeah, he might be the last of the breed, but he's got to stay healthy.
absolutely. Well, I definitely
Mhm.
appreciate your time. I want to give you a chance to kind of plug some of the things that you're doing now, the sports performance. Tell us a little bit about what you are up to now.
Yeah, so I'm the owner of AY Sports Performance, located in South Jersey, and I cover the greater Philadelphia region and expand into North Jersey here soon. So, complete sports performance, working on speed, agility, and general conditioning. And that goes along with Running Back University, which is my running back performance training, where we cover everything running back. A lot of the things we cover today, you get a little glimpse, and it's just all encompassing packaging, helping the kids out with recruiting and using my network that way as well. So anyone's welcome, and just reach out to me on any of the socials. Just type my name in.
Absolutely. So everyone can find you where again?
You can find me on Twitter at a.young, ADOTYOUNG. It's probably just you can just type in my name, Albert Young, and on the search it'll pop up.
Perfect. And I got it scrolling at the bottom here too. So
nice. That's nice. That's nice. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, I definitely appreciate your time, and look forward to what's next for you, and obviously following you on socials. And are you going to be watching the draft and maybe seeing where Tyler Linderbaum goes as well?
Oh yeah, I'll be watching and see what's going on. Where they got him projected now?
Probably I think mid first round. I never really you just never know. I mean, it would be nice if he went to, the Bengals. I think that would be kind of a cool, definitely a need, but who knows if he lasts that long, right?
Yeah. He's really good, man. The way he runs and pulls at the center, he's special. He's special.
Absolutely. Well, this has been fun. Thanks again. I definitely appreciate it. And we'll definitely have to connect again. Thanks again.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And one last Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.